The uncomfortable part about it for me was playing a character that was sexually curious. I felt like my family was my therapy. He's kind of cocky. He's got a lot of confidence.
Right.
Learn to enjoy the journey, the struggle. That's part of the game, man.
Welcome back to the latest episode of BET Talks. I'm your host, Miabelle, and today's guest has been blessing our screens for decades on end as an award-winning writer, actor, producer, and the CEO of Can You Dig It Productions, all right? Now, you may know him as of lately as Horace Bellaire, starring in Beauty and Black, and here to celebrate part 2 is Mr. Ricco Ross. Hello, sir.
Nice intro, thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate
you're welcome. Peace and love, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here representing Beauty and Black. Didn't know that I was going to have a black beauty in front of me.
Come on.
I'll take it.
Now that's how we do it at BET, all right? Looking very handsome yourself.
Thank you.
And glowing.
Thank you.
And we're going to get into it, all right?
Okay.
Now, we have a game for you. It's titled This or That. All you have to do is pick your choice and tell us why.
Uh-oh.
You cool with it?
I'm always cool with it.
Okay, early call time or night shoot?
Night shoot. I'm a night person. I gravitate towards the evening, and I have to tell myself to go to sleep. So yeah, nighttime.
When it comes to peace and privacy, do you prefer that or the spotlight?
You know, I grew up with 5 brothers, 5 sisters.
You don't know peace or privacy?
I'm not as familiar with it. I'm not as familiar with it as I am being around people.
So how does that spotlight feel?
Comfortable. Sometimes it's surprising because I don't expect it. I'm just doing my job and people get very excited about it. And I never let it go to my head. You know, it's just a job.
Yeah.
It just happens to be on screen. I lived in England for 13 years, and one of the things I got from the actors over there that I said I'm going to keep with me wherever I go, they keep their perspective. It is a job. It's a job that we love. We get in front of a bunch of eyes, but it's the job, and life is really what's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when it comes to dinner, do you prefer a luxury dinner or a hole-in-the-wall spot?
Luxury dinner.
Michelin star.
Listen, I come from a kind of poor beginning, so I know that side. And when I was in college, I said, I know the lower economic side of society. And as a young man, my job now is to learn what's above that.
Yeah.
So that I have a complete perspective.
Now, when the cameras are off and nobody needs anything from you, who is Ricco Ross?
I am a regular guy. I'm a man's man, and I also feel comfortable around women, and it's a blessing to grow up with 5 brothers and 5 sisters because I'm very comfortable in any of those environments.
Yeah. Where do you fall in line between your 5 brothers and 5 sisters? Because that is a huge family.
I'm number 8.
Okay.
Number 8.
Wow.
But I'm born between 2 girls, so.
So they were looking out for you.
Yeah.
I'm sure, all the siblings.
Oh yeah, especially having older brothers, and we're all big guys.
Yeah.
I never had to worry about bullying. It was always a safe space for me.
Of course. Now, when you step behind the scenes as a producer, what kind of stories do you feel called to tell?
I worked for the BBC for a while when I lived in London, and they had to educate, to entertain, and to inspire. And I saw that, and I thought, that's what I want to do. Whatever project I do, I love it to be entertaining, but I want to drop some knowledge on it and inspire people.
And what are you working on when it comes to Can You Dig It?
We have a project right now. It is called Dispatch, and it's basically a project about a kind of 911 officer who is dispatching similar kind of ICE agents to foreigners.
Oh, wow.
But he's also a mole. And he's working to guide people to safe houses. It's kind of like Harriet Tubman 2.0.
It's a necessary story that needs to be told.
Yes.
Now, I want you to tell us about your character in Beauty and Black. I've seen part 1, and I know all about Mr. Horace Bellaire. Now, would you call him a villain, or is he just a wounded man with just way too much power?
Yes.
Yes, to both?
To both.
Yeah.
But I would also not only call him a villain. I mean, he is the antagonist of the show sometimes, but he is also the protagonist of the show.
Okay.
So sometimes he's the villain, sometimes he's the hero, which makes him such a pleasure to play, to play a character that has that span. When you first meet him, you think that he is a senior citizen that is on a fixed income. You later find out he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. When you first meet him, you think that he is extremely homophobic. And later on, you find out he's rather sexual curious himself.
Right.
You think that he is weak and that you can run over him. And later on you find out he's not that guy at all. So he has all these different layers. When someone offers you a role like that, they're taking a chance on you. They've written this role, and this role has got so much in there, and they're hoping that you can breathe life into it and make it real. And it was so different from me because I'm not like like Horace.
Right.
I mean, in every role that an actor plays, there's some of that person in him. But I'm not like Horace, the kind of like the essence of Horace. He can be vicious, and I don't think I'm ever vicious.
How do you step into a role like that? Because Horace, he done put us through a lot. We've seen a lot through his lens.
I used the foundation of my father. That's the foundation of Horace. My father was a big man physically as well as in the community. And he grew up in a time when there weren't a lot of opportunities for black men. And it was a dangerous thing in Chicago. He was a Golden Glove boxer. He worked at a factory. He ran the numbers. He was a loan shark. But I never remember him raising his voice in anger. As a matter of fact, when people would get excited and people would shout, he would wait and lower his voice. My father was a very gentle giant, but I knew from the business he was in and the community he served that he had the capabilities to do whatever was necessary. And so that's the foundation of Horace.
Of course, and like you said, there's so many different elements to his character. And one thing that I really did love was how you guys highlighted sexuality for black men within the scope of Beauty in Black. Like you said, at first we think he's homophobic, all to find out that he is actually curious. And I do think it's okay for that to be amplified because there are so many men who deal with these same emotions. How did it feel stepping into that side and really portraying, what's really out there in the world?
In every role that I've ever wanted, I wanted there to be something uncomfortable about it. That's how you grow. That's how you stretch yourself. The uncomfortable part about it for me was playing a character that was sexually curious, especially as a black male actor in Hollywood, because you hear it on social media that, before a black man can make it to stardom, he has to be in a dress. You see him in a dress. And you hear all this out there, which made me want to shy away from those parts. But at the same time, as an artist, I'm often cast to play alpha males.
Yes.
And as an artist, I want to show that I have this ability to play men that are alpha males and to play men who aren't alpha males. And I'm not going to let anyone take that away from me. So when this came up, that was the uncomfortability part of the role. When you accept a role like that, you got to go for it 100%.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you're going to come across as a bad actor. So when I'm looking at these young men in there, in my mind, I'm thinking, he Halle Berry.
Come on.
I'm licking my lips like he Halle Berry in that.
You have to. It has
because
to be
I got to make it
believable.
real for me, and I got to make it real for the audience.
Without telling us too much about what happens in part 2, would you say that Horace's danger to the season lies in his power or his pain?
I think both. I think he has power. I think he has unknown power, unseen power by the family and by the audience. And I think there's also pain, unhappiness with his life. People think that money brings happiness, but it can't buy happiness. Whatever you are, money's going to amplify that. If you're a good person, money's going to amplify that. If you're a bad person, money's going to amplify that. And if you're distressed and whatnot with your family, with your environment, money's going to amplify that. So I think he's got issues like everybody in that cast. Everybody in that cast has issues. And one of the things I'll give Tyler credit for is that these characters are so distinctively different. That's what makes it so flavorful.
What do you think Hollywood still gets completely wrong when talking about black men, when showcasing black men?
That black men are like every other man. We all have the same emotions. We all have the same things we go through. We all have the same desires. It's not just a race thing. And also, you're 6'3", 200 pounds, and relatively fit. You are going to fit a certain type of role. So I have to accept that. When I first started off in this business, I was lucky enough to get a part in Hill Street Blues, but I was playing a gang member. Coming from Chicago, having big brothers, I knew about gang members, so I felt I could play a gang member with my eyes closed. But I had a master's degree from UCLA. Shout out to UCLA, who gave me a fellowship.
Yes.
I bleed blue and gold.
Come on.
But the next 3 roles that I got was the same character, but with a different name. And I'm walking around with a master's degree and only being considered for
gangster roles.
So I went back to my college professor and I said, listen, I'm really happy to be working right outside of college because a lot of my classmates weren't. But I said, I feel like I have more to offer than just playing a gang member. And he suggested that I go to England, study Shakespeare. He said it will be good for you as an actor, but more importantly, it'll be good for you as a young man. And I went, and that 1 year turned into 13 years. And as an actor or an artist, we're like sponges. So you put us in that environment. By the end of the year, my English accent was as good as anybody in England.
And did you use it that full 13 years?
I used it for 4 years.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I created what's the equivalent of a social security number, and I started going on auditions and interviews with my British accent, and for 4 years I was a British black actor in London.
Wow. I want you to give us some story time, because Aliens in '86, Private Frost, okay? And then take us to Full Metal Jacket. What happened?
Stanley Kubrick Kubrick was a huge director. And at the time I met him, he was at the top of his game. And I met James Cameron first. People didn't know James Cameron. I think he had done a little movie called Piranha, and then he had done a bigger movie, the first Terminator. But nobody knew who he was. So I read for him, but he had me read for the character Hudson, and Hudson had the most dialogue, so he had me read for him. But it was early during the casting period. And then he told me, he says, but I can't offer you this part, but I want you to be in the movie. I had become emotionally attached to that part.
Yeah.
And so I told him, if I can't get that part, then I'm not interested.
I can't believe you said that.
He's kind of cocky. He's kind of cocky. He's got a lot of confidence.
Right.
But he's got a lot of confidence for a reason, because at the same time, I had been offered a role for Mission Impossible. He says, well, do me a favor. Before you accept anything else, come back and see me. Then I go meet Stanley Kubrick, and Stanley Kubrick offers me 8 weeks on Full Metal Jacket, and it only overlaps 1 week. I want to do the Kubrick movie, so I go back to James, because I'm a man of my word. And I says, I'm coming back to see you because I said I would, but I'm going to do the Kubrick movie. I'm going to pass on your movie. And then he convinced me that he was going to rewrite the script, take 3 characters, make them 1 character, and he would also schedule around my schedule so that I can go to Prague and shoot Mission Impossible, come back and shoot Aliens, go back to Prague and shoot Mission Impossible, come back and finish Aliens. And then he also says, if Stanley Kubrick will release you after the 8 weeks, I'll let you do that movie, come to my movie a week late. I asked Kubrick, would they release me after 8 weeks? He said no. I says, well, can you at least let me read the script so I know what I'm doing? He goes, the script isn't finished. You guys are going to go into workshop, and whatever you bring, that's what's going to be. I says, well, can you at least pay me my fee? Because he was paying everybody's scale. He says, no. And so I passed on the film, which he could not believe, because nobody passes on Kubrick.
Yeah.
And even after I passed, he called back 3 days later, said, listen, is Ricco going to do this movie or not? And my agent had to tell him, no, he's doing Aliens. He's passing on you. So it was a hard decision, and I wish I could have made both movies, but his movie took over a year to make, so there's no way he was going to release me after 8 weeks, and the rest is history.
What would you say to young Ricco to, be weary about within the business?
The first thing I would say is that you're right, but it's going to take a lot longer than you thought, because I thought I would be a star right from the start, and I think a lot of actors do, and it's going to be a lot harder, but if you keep doing the work, you'll get there.
Now, what took you the longest to learn in this business?
Patience.
Yeah.
I was driving down Sunset Boulevard, and I see all these billboards of actors and different movies and all that. And I said to myself, when I've got a billboard on Sunset Boulevard, then I'll feel like I've made it. Not until then. 3 days ago, my wife sends me a photograph.
Of the billboard?
Of the billboard on Sunset.
Wow.
3 days ago.
It took some time.
Tell me about it, girl. Tell me about it, me.
Man, how did it feel?
It felt amazing, because I had a billboard before, but it was from a modeling job. And I was like, you put it out there, but you weren't specific.
Right.
This isn't what you wanted. You wanted it to be from an acting project. And it was in Chicago. And this one was on Sunset, the same street that I drove down. And it was Beauty in Black. It felt like the patience paid off.
Yes, it did. And at the perfect time, right?
At the perfect time.
Of course. Now, what's something that you think every Black man should know about themselves that they should have learned sooner, actually?
That we should be okay being vulnerable sometimes. Because there's a lot of stress in people's lives. And if you don't let that out, you don't have that pressure valve to let it out. We have a high rate of heart attack and things like that because we don't cry. We are told if there's something wrong, walk it off. We don't have therapists. To go to a therapist, it costs money, so you don't have the finances for that. So I would say it's okay to understand that is a necessary need for us. Women talk about their health a lot. They'll talk about their period. They'll talk about their, menopause. They'll talk about all these things. Men, we talk about sports. We talk about business, we talk about women, but we do not talk about our health.
Yeah.
And I just think that's something else that we should talk about. Especially when you hit 40, I'm a global ambassador for Zero Prostate Cancer. A lot of men don't understand that if you have prostate issues, if you catch it early in stage 1, there's like 90% curable. So I would say, Black men should talk about their health more with each other.
So we got to bring that into the conversation.
Yeah.
Of course. And what are you doing to keep yourself healthy? Are you in therapy? What are some things that are bringing you joy right now in your personal life?
I come from a generation and from an economic standpoint where therapy was never a question.
Yeah.
But also when you come from a family of 11 kids, you grow up with every personality there is. I felt like my family was my therapy. So I didn't feel like I needed it.
Yeah.
My therapy is going to the gym. I go to the gym 3 times a week. I play basketball for the first hour of it. The second hour, I lift weights, and then I stretch, shower, and I'm good.
Yeah.
When I get that out on the court, I come home, I am the most gentle man you'd ever want to meet.
Right.
I think that's my therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's important, especially, you know, moving the body.
In my business, I have an added incentive because I'm an actor, and the way you look is important. My ego, I want to be fit. I want to be capable no matter what the circumstances are to handle myself, to protect my lady or my family, whatever. But it is a mental thing too. When I don't go for a while, I feel a certain amount of anxiety.
Yeah, well, we're happy that you're going. And we're so happy that that's able to bring you all of the insight that you brought us today, all of the intention that you brought us today, and of course the role that you play in Beauty in Black, and all of the others, because you've been around, okay? Thank you so much for being here. It's BET Talks and Ricco Ross.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
That was amazing.
Thank you.